If you're over 60 and love cheese, this one's for you. Some cheeses can quietly support your health, while others might be doing harm without you knowing it. Today I'll walk you through 3 cheeses your body needs, and 4 you should definitely avoid. Simple, warm advice just for you. Let me start with one that might surprise you in a good way: Parmesan. Yep, the hard, crumbly cheese you might have grated over your spaghetti. Turns out it's not just tasty, it's one of the best things you can add to your diet for stronger bones. See, as we age, our bones naturally start to thin out. That's just the body slowing down a bit. For women, especially after menopause, bone loss picks up speed, and it's not always obvious until something breaks. I've worked with so many older folks who've had a small trip or slip, and next thing they know, it's a broken wrist, a cracked hip, or worse. That kind of injury can turn life upside down. So when we talk about preventing falls, yes, balance and exercise matter, but what you eat plays a bigger role than most people think. And this is where Parmesan comes. Let me tell you about a woman I worked with named Helen. She's 71, lives in Phoenix, and she's sharp as a tack. But a year ago, she slipped on her porch and ended up with a fractured wrist. Nothing dramatic, just a small fall, but it shook her confidence. At her follow-up, her doctor ran a bone scan and told her she had early-stage osteopenia, which is like the warning sign before full-blown osteoporosis. When she came to see me, she was worried. "I don't want to end up in a nursing home because of a broken hip," she said. We talked through her diet, and I noticed she was cutting back on dairy because she thought it was just for kids. I gently explained that older adults actually need more calcium, not less. But here's the kicker: calcium doesn't work alone. Without vitamin K2, calcium doesn't always go to the right places. That's when I recommended adding a bit of aged cheese like Parmesan to her meals. It's rich in both calcium and K2, and because it's a hard cheese, you don't need a lot to get the benefits. She started grating it over her soup, tossing it on roasted veggies, even adding a bit to her oatmeal. 6 months later, she came back smiling. Her latest scan showed no further bone loss. "I didn't think cheese could make that much of a difference," she told me. And honestly, neither did I until I saw it work, over and over again. One of the simplest ways to support your bones is to sprinkle about a tablespoon of grated Parmesan, maybe 10 to 15 grams on a meal once a day. It could be lunch or dinner, whatever you like. It blends well with warm vegetables, soups, even eggs. It's not about loading up just that little bit regularly. And because it's so flavorful, a small amount goes a long way. You know, getting older doesn't mean getting weaker, not if you keep giving your body what it needs. Think of Parmesan like a quiet helper, one of those old friends who doesn't say much but always shows up when it matters. You don't need big changes, just small, thoughtful ones. You're worth it. Here's another one that deserves a place in your kitchen: goat cheese. Soft, gentle on the stomach, and full of goodness. After 60, digestion can get tricky. You might have noticed some foods don't sit the way they used to. Bloating, gas, discomfort after a simple meal. It's not your imagination. Our bodies change how they process lactose, the sugar found in regular dairy. And for some folks, cow's milk products become a challenge. But that doesn't mean giving up cheese entirely. It just means finding the ones that are kinder to your system. Goat cheese is one of those cheeses that feels like it was made with older bodies in mind. It's naturally lower in lactose, easier to digest, and full of protein and calcium, things you still need, maybe now more than ever. A patient of mine, George, 68, from Eugene, Oregon, came to see me last winter. He told me he had stopped eating cheese altogether. It just wasn't worth it, he said. Every time he had a grilled cheese or even just some crackers with cheese, he felt bloated for hours. I figured my cheese days were over. He missed the flavor, the comfort. Cheese had always been a part of his meals. I asked him if he had ever tried goat cheese. He looked puzzled. "Isn't that fancy stuff for parties?" I smiled and explained that goat cheese isn't just a luxury item. It's a smart, gentle alternative. A few days later, he called me and said, "You won't believe this. I had goat cheese on toast with a slice of tomato this morning, and I felt totally fine." That became his new breakfast. Another woman I worked with, Janet, 70, from Tampa, had a similar story. She struggled with heartburn and discomfort from dairy. We slowly introduced plain goat cheese into her diet, mixed into mashed avocado, spread on crackers, added to salads. Not only did she enjoy the flavor, but she also noticed fewer stomach issues. "I feel like I can enjoy food again," she told me. And that, to me, is everything. Because meals aren't just fuel. They're moments of comfort, memory, and joy. What often helps is using a small amount of fresh goat cheese in a familiar way. Spread a thin layer on whole grain toast, mix it into scrambled eggs, or crumble it over steamed vegetables. Choose the kind without flavorings or additives. Just plain soft goat cheese. It's gentle, mild, and easy to find in most grocery stores. Start with a tablespoon and see how your body responds. Eating well after 60 isn't about restriction, it's about rediscovery. You still deserve flavor, ease, and joy at every meal. Goat cheese is like a quiet bridge between what your body needs and what your heart remembers. You don't have to give up the foods you love. You just need to meet them in a new way on gentler terms. Now let's talk about a cheese that can do more than just nourish your body. It can lift your mood and sharpen your mind. Ricotta. Light, creamy, and often overlooked, this cheese is packed with high-quality protein and an amino acid called tryptophan. That's the one your brain uses to make serotonin, the feel-good chemical that helps regulate mood, sleep, and memory. After 60, many people notice subtle changes: forgetfulness, trouble sleeping, or a general sense of fog or sadness. It's easy to blame it all on aging, but part of it can be the simple lack of nutrients that support brain health. We talk a lot about calcium and bones, but the brain, it needs nourishment too. And ricotta is one of those gentle foods that helps without demanding too much from your digestion. Let me tell you about Nancy, 74, from Burlington, Vermont. She came to me after a long winter. "I just don't feel like myself," she said. "I forget words mid-sentence, I wake up tired, and I just don't feel sharp anymore." She was worried it might be early signs of something serious. But when we went through her eating habits, I saw that she'd unintentionally reduced her protein intake. No eggs, no meat, no dairy. She thought she was doing the right thing, keeping it light, but her brain was missing fuel. I suggested she try adding ricotta to her mornings, just a spoonful or two in her oatmeal or with fruit. At first she was skeptical. "Isn't that for lasagna?" she laughed. But 2 weeks later, she called me and said, "I can't believe how much clearer I feel." Another man I worked with, Bill, 69, from Minneapolis, had been struggling with motivation and low energy. We added ricotta to his snacks. He started having it on toast with sliced bananas or cinnamon. Slowly, he began to feel more present, more balanced. "It's like my head isn't so heavy anymore," he told me. No big medicines, no complicated plans, just small, thoughtful changes. One of the simplest ways to benefit from ricotta is to enjoy 1 to 2 tablespoons in the morning. Mix it with fresh fruit, oatmeal, or even spread it on whole grain toast. Look for plain whole milk ricotta with no added sugar. It's soft, easy to chew, and doesn't require cooking. Just open, scoop, and enjoy. Even small steps can ripple out into big changes. Think of your brain like a garden. It doesn't need fireworks. It just needs gentle rain and quiet care. Foods like ricotta give it that. You're allowed to feel good, you're allowed to feel clear, and it starts with something as simple as a spoonful in the morning. Let's shift gears now and talk about a type of cheese that might be quietly making things worse, especially if you have high blood pressure. Processed cheese spreads and slices, the kind that come in shiny wrappers or plastic tubs. They're convenient. They melt fast, they last forever in the fridge, but they're loaded with sodium, preservatives, and additives that your body doesn't need. If you're someone over 60 keeping an eye on your blood pressure, these cheeses could be sneaking extra salt into your day without you realizing it. And too much sodium pulls water into your blood vessels, raising pressure, putting extra strain on your heart, kidneys, and even your brain. It's a slow-moving problem, but it adds up. One little slice here, a dollop there, and over time, the body pays the price. I remember Robert, 72, from San Antonio, Texas. He came in for a routine checkup, and his blood pressure was higher than ever. "But I've been good," he said. "I don't even salt my food anymore." We sat down and looked at his meals. Breakfast, toast, with cheese spread, snack crackers and processed cheese cubes. Dinner, a cheeseburger with a slice of that plastic-wrapped stuff on top. "But it's just cheese," he said. That's when I explained how some processed cheeses can pack in over 400 milligrams of sodium per slice. "It doesn't taste that salty," he replied. Exactly, that's the trick. I worked with him to swap out the processed slices for thin shavings of real cheese like Swiss or mild cheddar. He still got the flavor, but with far less salt and none of the chemical fillers. A month later, his blood pressure had dropped. Another patient, Darlene, 69, from Ohio, loved melted cheese dips. She'd microwave them with chips for lunch. "It's quick," she said, but she also had swelling in her ankles and trouble sleeping. We slowly replaced her dips with homemade blends, real cheese with a little yogurt or mashed avocado. "I didn't think I'd like it," she said, "but I do. I feel lighter." Those little changes made a difference, not just in numbers, but in how she felt waking up every day. What often helps is reading the labels. If the ingredients list is long with words you don't recognize, it's probably a cheese product, not real cheese. Skip the slices wrapped in plastic or tubs labeled cheese spread. Instead, go for small amounts of real cheese you grate yourself. You don't need a lot, just a touch for taste. You're not giving up flavor. You're giving up what doesn't serve you anymore. Your body deserves clarity, not clutter, and real food brings clarity. Think of it like choosing sunlight over flickering bulbs. It might be less flashy, but it's warmer, truer, and just plain better for you. Here's one that surprises a lot of people. Blue cheese. That includes Roquefort, Gorgonzola, Stilton, and other cheeses with visible veins of mold. They're rich in flavor, yes, but also rich in compounds that can trigger inflammation, especially if you're someone dealing with arthritis, gout, or autoimmune issues. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to certain ingredients. The immune system doesn't recover quite as fast, and the foods we once enjoyed without trouble can now stir up pain in joints, fatigue, or even headaches. Blue cheeses are fermented in a way that produces histamines and other byproducts that might not bother younger folks, but can lead to flare-ups in older adults. It doesn't mean they're bad cheeses, but for people over 60 with chronic inflammation, they can quietly add fuel to the fire. One of my patients, Karen, 66, from Clearwater, Florida, came to me with sore knees and stiff fingers. She was active, loved gardening, and didn't want to slow down. Her rheumatologist diagnosed her with early-stage rheumatoid arthritis. When we reviewed her meals, I noticed her habit of having blue cheese crumbles on salads, almost daily. "It gives it a kick," she said, but I asked her to take a break from blue cheese for 3 weeks, just to see. She switched to goat cheese and olive oil dressing. By the second week, she told me her hands felt a little less swollen in the morning. By the third, her energy was up, and her joints weren't barking after yard work. "I didn't think something that small could matter," she said. Another case I remember is Frank, 70, from Reno, Nevada. He loved gorgonzola on steak, rich, creamy, bold, but he also had a history of gout. Every few months he'd get a flare-up so painful he couldn't walk. After talking, he agreed to cut out blue cheese for a while and watch his uric acid levels. Not only did the flare-ups ease, but his sleep improved too. "I feel like I have fewer bad days," he said. That's what we aim for. More good days, fewer setbacks. If you enjoy that tangy, salty flavor, there are alternatives that don't bring the same inflammatory load. Try feta in moderation, or better yet, plain goat cheese with cracked pepper. They give your salad or meal some personality without the extra risk. Just avoid cheeses with blue, veined, or aged with mold on the label. You're not losing a treat, you're gaining comfort. Imagine your joints like a door hinge. Less rust, more ease. The right choices help you move through the day with less pain and more freedom. That's not sacrifice. That's smart, gentle self-care. Let's talk about something a little sneaky. Cheeses with added flavors, colors, or fillings. I'm talking about the ones that come pre-shredded with smoky bacon, jalapeno, garlic blends, or even sweetened versions with fruit or honey. These aren't just cheese. They're processed foods wearing a cheese costume. As we age, our liver and pancreas work a little slower, and our bodies become more sensitive to additives like starches, sugars, artificial flavors, and preservatives. What seems like a fun little burst of flavor can actually send your blood sugar soaring or stress your digestive system. For older adults, especially those managing diabetes, fatty liver, or high cholesterol, these fancy cheeses can quietly cause more harm than good. I think about Frank, 69, from Naperville, Illinois. He came in after a routine checkup showed his blood sugar creeping higher and higher. "I barely eat sweets," he told me. But when we talked through his meals, I noticed he loved those little cheese cubes with bits of bacon in them. He had them almost every day as a snack. When I asked him to check the label, he was shocked. Hidden sugars, starches, and over a dozen ingredients, most of which he couldn't pronounce. "I thought it was just cheese," he said. "That's exactly the problem." Another patient, Margaret, 72, from Fresno, California, loved flavored cream cheeses, the kind with herbs, garlic, or even strawberry. She'd spread them generously on her morning bagel, thinking it was a healthier choice than butter. But she was dealing with indigestion, and it was getting worse. We replaced those with a plain, unflavored ricotta or cottage cheese and added her own herbs or berries. Within 2 weeks, the bloating eased and her energy improved. "I didn't realize how much those little extras added up," she told me. "It's not about flavor being bad. It's about choosing flavor that comes from real food, not a factory. One of the easiest ways to avoid trouble is to stick with cheeses that have short ingredient lists, ideally just milk, salt, enzymes. Avoid anything with flavored, processed, trained with additions, or a list of more than 5 ingredients. If you want extra taste, you can always add your own herbs, spices, or even a little fruit at home. Your food should be honest. You deserve clarity, not confusion. Think of your body like an old radio. It still plays beautifully, but it doesn't need static. When you feed it simple, clean notes, everything sounds and feels better. Here's one that doesn't get talked about enough: cheese that's too salty. Now, a little salt is fine, but some cheeses like feta, halloumi, and even cottage cheese can carry a heavy salt load, sometimes packing in more than half of your recommended daily sodium in just one small serving. And here's the tricky part: it doesn't always taste overly salty. After 60, your kidneys might not filter sodium as efficiently, and your blood vessels can become more sensitive. That means high-salt cheeses can raise your blood pressure without you noticing. And not just blood pressure, too much salt also makes your body lose calcium through urine. So while you think you're feeding your bones, the salt may actually be pulling that calcium right back out. It's a frustrating loop, but one we can change with a little awareness. Linda, 73, from Santa Rosa, California, came to see me because her doctor had warned her about rising blood pressure. "But I eat healthy," she said. She was proud of her Mediterranean-style diet. Lots of vegetables, olives, and daily feta cheese crumbled on everything. When I asked how much feta she used, she said, "A good handful. I love the flavor." We looked at the sodium content together. One serving of her favorite brand had over 400 milligrams. She was using nearly double that every day. No wonder her pressure wasn't coming down. We didn't take it away entirely. We rinsed the feta before using it and cut the amount in half. Within a month, her pressure began to drop. "I still enjoy my salads," she said. "I just enjoy them more calmly now." Another story comes from Charles, 70, in Raleigh, North Carolina. He used to snack on salty string cheese throughout the day. It was his light snack, but his bone density was decreasing despite taking calcium. We reviewed his habits, and I explained how high sodium causes calcium to leave the body faster. We replaced the string cheese with low-sodium mozzarella, and he added just a dash of herbs for flavor. "I feel like I'm finally doing something that sticks," he told me. "What helps is being label smart. Look at the sodium content. Anything above 200 milligrams per serving is considered high. If you love salty cheese like feta or halloumi, rinse it briefly under cold water before adding it to meals, and use it less often. You still get the taste, but with less risk. Think of salt like a guest who stays too long. At first it's welcome, but eventually it takes more than it gives. Your heart, your bones, your energy, they all work better when you give them space to breathe. You don't need to quit flavor. You just need to invite the right kind of it. If anything here gave you a new idea or helped you understand your body better, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell for more gentle health tips. You're not alone, your choices matter, and your life still holds so much good.